Now, we'll get to the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight in just a few minutes, but that isn't the only big matchup happening this weekend. UFC 309 and the return of the reigning UFC heavyweight champion, Jon Jones. And here to help us break it all down is a member of the I1 Digital family. He is the men's editor for platforms like Cassius and Hip Hop Wired. But beyond the pen, he's also got 20 years of MMA training and amateur competition under his belt. So show some love for DL Chandler. DL, thank you so much for coming on with us.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I can't wait to get into this conversation.
Yeah. Are you a gamer?
I'm a gamer. Yeah, I play a little bit. I'm into NBA 2Ks, COD, a little bit of that, but I'm not the greatest though.
I don't know what gave it away. I just, something.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a hint here and there somewhere,
Got you. So we got Jon Jones fighting this week. I already assume that Jon is going to win this match. He's the greatest mixed martial artist of all time, and maybe the greatest fighter of all time. So forget this week. Will we ever see a Jon Jones Francis Ngannou fight, man?
I would hope so, because there are different leagues, as you know. So right. Ngannou is at the PFL, which is a great league in itself, but the UFC would probably be the top banana in the MMA world. Who knows? Dana White might want to do some cross promotion one day and let Ngannou and Jones get it on. I think that would be an amazing fight. Two big guys who can wrestle and throw, leather. It would be a heck of a fight. I would want to see it.
Need to see it.
Yeah, need to see it.
Let's kind of go back to this weekend's fight. How big is this matchup going to be for Jon? In the legacy, in his legacy.
When we talk about legacy, in the MMA world, pardon me, I think what Jon Jones represents, like Rodney just said, he is pretty much considered the GOAT of mixed martial arts, but also not just his division. As you remember, Jon Jones dominated the light heavyweight division in the UFC. He had no competition, so he had to move up to fight better, fighters, and he ran into some guys who were tough, but he took care of them all easily. But when it comes to legacy, Stipe Miocic is, to me, a great stand-up fighter, a great wrestler, a great champion. I mean, hey, he lost to Ngannou. He lost his belt to Ngannou. I mean, that's someone to lose to in the fourth round. So he took him to the fourth round. So Stipe is not a chump in that ring. And he is one of the more decorated UFC heavyweight champions. This guy took out big names in the division. But for me, I think Jones has way too many weapons. But he also has a lot weighing on this fight, too. Jones had a lot of trouble outside the ring. We won't get into all of that. I mean, we all know the headlines. I mean, he wasn't the greatest guy outside the ring. But inside that ring, he was flawless. And he'll have to be against Stipe. And I think Stipe, to me, is his, I won't say it's a nemesis to him. I think there are better fighters in that division who would be a bigger nemesis, in my opinion. However, I think what Stipe represents is a champion like Jon Jones who took them all on. It wasn't afraid to fight anyone. And I think for his legacy, he has to win this thing to cement his legacy as the greatest of all time, as Dana White likes to proclaim him.
It's like LeBron winning a championship this year. It's like, if he doesn't do it, are we really going to ding him? Not really, no. But I understand what you're saying. Also on 309 is a fight that I'm really looking forward to. We got Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. This, to me, is probably going to be the best match of the night. Chandler is tough. Like, he's one of the toughest dudes I've ever watched in UFC, so I'm always excited to see him fight, but Oliveira is a different kind of beast. Who do you have winning this match?
Well, Do Bronx, as he's nicknamed, Charles Oliveira, he's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu player who likes to stand and bang, which is kind of different for a lot of Brazilian jiu-jitsu players, because mostly they take the fight to the ground and they dominate with leg locks, neck cranks, and all that kind of thing. But Do Bronx, he likes to stand and bang, and and Chandler, as we all know, also likes to stand and bang. You know what I mean? This is going to be a stand-up fight primarily, but let's remember, Chandler is also good on the ground too, and he doesn't get taken down easily.
Yo, so those kicks, those outside kicks of Oliveira, it'll be really interesting to see how Chandler offsets them, because he is so short, right? He's right. He's like the Simone Biles of UFC. Because he's little, Samaria. You know what I mean?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, dang, that's short. Yeah.
He's little.
Yes. And so Do Bronx, for me, he's a tall, lanky fighter. And also that makes him dangerous on the ground too. When you have long limbs, you have a lot more options when it comes to submission grappling. You know what I mean? So if it does get taken to the ground, Chandler could be in trouble with all those angles and all those holds that Charles does have in his bag. However, if it stands and bang, I don't know. They both have power. They both have heart. They both have grit. It's going to be a hell of a fight. To me, that's the fight I'm most excited about on the card.
Same. And Oliveira's coming off a loss, right? So
yes,
this is a fight that he should have won, honestly. So this will be interesting to see what kind of fire he comes out with.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, and I think he will, because I think he has something to prove. This guy's a former champion. Oliveira is not a chump, man. Like I said, I mean, he's another one of those guys who really has a resume that's worth remembering, worth praising. And it's going to be, to me, my number one fight of the night after the Jones fight. Seriously.
So for novice UFC MMA fans out there, give us your top 3 to 5 figures who people may be sleeping on or are not familiar with.
Oh, it's so hard, man, because I mean, there's so many fight divisions out there. There's one fight championship, which I love, which has a lot of disciplines like Thai boxing, which I come from. I was a Thai boxer for many years. They also do submission grappling, which is straight submission, no strikes or anything. So one division has people like Stipe Miocic, who is one of the fiercest women fighters out there. I mean, I'm talking like just an amazing blur of energy, power, finesse. So Stipe Miocic, if you never heard of her, go look her up. You're going to find a fighter that's going to like scare you at night. You know what I mean? But outside of one fight, let's go back to UFC. I mean, you have the champions like Ilia Topuria. I mean, this guy just took care of Max Holloway, who, in my mind, is the toughest UFC fighter that's ever lived. This guy has a chin of stone, and Ilia took him out. You know what I mean? Ilia, he also took out Volk and all those other guys. You know what I mean? This is not this guy's a Spanish pit bull out there. You know what I mean? This guy is like one of the better fighters I've seen in that division in a very long time. So Ilia Topuria is a guy to watch. I'll also say, take it back to the assassin baby, Brandon Moreno out of Mexico. He's another great fighter, and I think too, you might see that I'm mentioning a lot of the smaller fighters. That's what the fight is, man. I mean, let's just be honest, the smaller fighters, the lighter weights, that's where the action is, you know what I mean? Only until you get to like light heavyweights where the fight slows down a bit. And I don't really see a lot of people in the light heavies beyond Alex Pereira, who is the champion right now. And Poatan, as you all know, has been taking out everyone. And right now he might be the UFC's best pound for pound fighter. To me, I think Alex Pereira at Poatan, hands of stone, is a top fighter in the UFC right now. He's the one to watch too as well. And hell, I'll say it right here. Max Holloway is still dangerous. He might have just lost to Ilia Topuria, but he's still, to me, a guy who should have a belt around his waist pretty soon.
That's the difference between UFC and boxing, right? Like, just because somebody takes an L in UFC, you're not a write-off. Whereas in boxing, a lot of times you take one L and it feels like your career is now on a downslide. And so I am interested to see this card. UFC 309 should be absolutely fantastic. Again, that Oliveira and Chandler fight is the one that I really got my eyes open for. And we appreciate you, brother, because I like this. I love UFC. I don't really get a lot of spaces and places to talk about it. So thank you for coming on here and even putting me on to some new cats.
Good deal. Thank you so much for coming on with us. And you all let us know down in the comments, what do you make of this weekend's UFC 309?